Saturday Night Football divisional matchup here. You got the Eagles favored by 7.5. The total shot up to 48. Looks like there's some sharp action coming in on that over as well. What do you like in this giant Eagle game?
So I'm on Daniel Bellinger under 22 and a half receiving yards. As you remember, weeks 15 through 17, he ran a route on 96% of Daniel Jones dropbacks. It's why we were kind of saying he's a great play in DFS. I mean, granted, he wasn't doing much with that usage. He only averaged 24 yards a game over that stretch. And then last week against the Vikings, his routes run rate fell all the way down to 82%.
Yep.
For whatever reason, I don't know why, but they got Lawrence Cager more involved. His routes run rate was around 30%. And that honestly could have had something to do with week 18, when they rested all the starters. Cager just went off for 8 catches for 69 yards. He's a former receiver, so he's more athletic than Bellinger. So maybe they just want a little bit more pop in the passing game. But I'm expecting them to have a similar usage this week. And the Eagles are pretty good against tight end, 6 in DVOA. So if Bellinger isn't getting that massive playing time, he's going to have a much lower floor as always. And he has a lower ADOT, so he could catch 3 passes and still stay under this number. So I think there's some sneaky value on Bellinger under 22 and a half receiving yards here.
Yeah, it's been a challenge to project this tight end usage for this week because that was it kind of came out of left field, right? Lawrence Cager, 30%. And what's even more interesting is that Bellinger actually played on 83% of the pass snaps. So I'm actually projecting it even lower because he didn't really block at all. And, you got to usually factor in, he's going to block, I'm using his season-long pass blocking rate kind of mixed with his last week's snap rate. So I actually have him around 77.5% for this week, which is even lower than last week. So I show a little bit of value on the under as well. And I kind of selfishly hope that he does go under because I think it's somewhat correlated with the prop that I want to go over. And that is Saquon Barkley over his receiving yardage prop at 25.5. And, Barkley was in on, he ran around on 95% of the dropbacks last week. So he was out there every play. And because they had Cager, Bellinger, and even sometimes Matt Breida on the field at the same time, Barkley didn't need to block. So that's something that's kind of been happening more and more as this season has kind of during the stretch run. They've stopped using Barkley as a blocker as much. And I think that's, that speaks to, I think he had a neck injury at one point and he had a shoulder injury at one point. So it kind of makes sense. You get your most explosive playmaker. Don't let him have to hit linebackers and defensive linemen, get him in a route. And I think they're going to need to do that this week against Philly. Philly's number 24 in DVOA on passes to running backs, but they're also number 2 against number 1 wide receivers. They're 4th against number 2 wide receivers. So you're going to have to find other ways to beat this Eagle team than just Slayton and Hodgins like you did last week against Minnesota. Some of that stuff just isn't going to be there this week. So I think Barkley is going to be featured in the pass game, and he had 20 yards on just 7 routes when they played in week 14, but he had an injury, and so he didn't really play much. But I think that was promising, and I think that's kind of a sign of things to come. More Barkley in the pass game rather than, a bunch of targets to Slayton and Hodgins this week, just because the separation I just don't think is going to be there the way it was against, playing Minnesota 2 times in 3 weeks.
This was actually my favorite prop in that game before I found the Irv Smith prop because, the Vikings play a ton of zone and, I thought Barkley was going to go off. Ironically, the Vikings just fired defensive coordinator Ed Donatel as I'm saying that.
No.
So,
what are we going to do?
A little bit of breaking news there.
What are we going to do, man? That's just like when Bleedy Ray Wilson got benched.
Yeah, who saw this coming? But one of the things that I saw was I think it was week 16. You were saying, look, it's must-win time for the Giants. Do not be surprised if Barkley just starts playing every down.
Yeah,
and that's when his routes run rate jumped up to he was around like 65% from weeks 10 through 15. He was banged up. We were saying, he's probably just exhausted. had a big workload. And then it shot all the way up to 82%, 90% in week 17. And then it was 95% last week. So he's practically running a route on every Daniel Jones drop back. And last week, Jones had what 11 rush attempts. So I don't think he's going to scramble as much. It's going to be impossible. So I just think that's going to lead to more checkoffs to Barkley as well. So yeah, I think he has massive upside in this market right now.
Yeah, cleared it in 3 of his last 4. He's gone 33, 49. Then he had a -5 against Indianapolis, and then 56 last week. So trending up. So from this game, we got the Bellinger under, the Barkley over, receiving